They are among the most powerful men and women on Earth. They are also part of a global conspiracy, a shadow organization that spans across every continent, and has for the last several decades, consisting of leaders in the world and the private sector. Some call this group the Cabal. The world you live in is the world they want you to think you live in. They start wars, create chaos, and when it suits them, they resolve it. The system has several major cooperative and more actively sinister groups of machines subsisting off of its power and directly contributing to the structure of the system itself. These groups are the military-industrial, the political-industrial, the prison-industrial, the surveillance-industrial, the media-industrial, the academic-industrial, the agricultural-industrial, the medical-industrial and all religious organizations. All machines in these groups either actively oppress humanity, perspective shift or enable the oppression to persist. It is through their combined efforts that the system takes on some of its more distasteful qualities. The system is fascist, the system is deceptive, and the system is bureaucracy. The system is essentially the rule of the institution over the individual, and in it, the rights of the individual are subordinate to the rights of the institution. Individuals have to believe, or at least not actively oppose the idea, that large corporations have the right to protect their profits above all else, and thus dictate policy and law. They had destroyed our old high civilization through war, famine, epidemics, fire and floods, and by silent exterminations. After the victory, they install their new world order and immediately begin creating virus and vaccines, unnecessary in our healthy ancient civilization. The population in our old high-technological era used to be fully harmonized and healed within Tartarian's power stations. Later they will create pharmaceutical companies which will gain extraordinary momentum from 1940 onwards by producing all sorts of products needed for the war effort, such as blood plasma, pills and vaccines. On the advice of his senior business counselor Frederick T. Gates, John D. Rockefeller founds the University of Chicago and the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research, for scientific work in the area of medical and biological sciences. It is the first one in the genre to be created in the U.S. In the following decades. The institute will specialize in biomedical engineering. William Avery Rockefeller, also known as Dr. Bill Livingston, passes away. Traveling salesman specialized in selling snake oil for medicinal purposes and lending money to 20%, Dr. Bill, who has never been a doctor but a perfect charlatan, prefers to help struggling farmers with no prospect of honoring their debt in order to later take their land. Their sons, descendants of the British Baron with the odd name of Baron de la Warr, will found Standard Oil. The Rockefeller Foundation creates an International Health Commission. Parasites linked to the Roosevelt Rockefeller Astor Vanderbilt of Russell Warburg family are able to approve the creation of the Federal Reserve. The Fed will install 12 private central banks in the U.S. to start printing inflationary currency issues. These and other financial maneuvers will end into the 1929 to 1939 Great Depression, Black Death, Great Plague, or Spanish flu. The deadliest disease outbreaks and kills an estimated 75 to 200 million people in Eurasia and Europe and infects 500 million people around the world, mainly young adults. Soldiers die more in hospitals than on battlefields. As an explanation for the high mortality rate is the unknown symptoms of aspirin poisonings at the time. Who synthesizes the aspirin and also the heroin is the German Felix Hoffmann. Felix works at Bayer as chemist. To maintain this control, history had to play in their favor. They are gatekeepers of reality. They are dismantling our history to create a new world era. The Cabal destroyed us 3 times and gave us a mediocre civilization as a gift. But they will not need a new cataclysm or great war to exterminate us. Using earthquakes, seasons, weather, mudslides, storms, bacteria and finally the Great Flood where it left everything unrecognizable. They covered their tracks with a belief system and named it God. Everything on a written book, scrolls or carved onto stone that has the name God is patent owned by the Cabal. Anyone who believes in demons, fallen angels, giants, Moors, Middle Ages or Aryan supremacy and other similar nonsense distraction is either foolish or unaware agent of the Cabal. Giant people in these recent photos on the internet are montages made in Photoshop. These giants are as real as the dinosaurs invented in the 19th century by Richard Owen to serve to the false theory of evolution of the species of the no less false Charles Darwin. Richard Owen and Charles Darwin were the same person. trees and all life were immortal until the arrival of the enemy. Time did not destroy them. Because it is not the old age that kills trees or humans. It is the corrosion caused by bacteria. Those who destroyed our ecosystems to mine our riches. That turned mountains of waste into volcanoes. Who buried the rivers, valleys and ancient cities in Africa with sand and named it Sahara. That swept the cities of Greenland, Siberia, the Far East, and Alaska from the map and destroyed the civilization of Great Tartaria. That annihilated millions in Africa with bombs, creating a crater called Victoria, non-existent in ancient maps. Crater turned into a lake, discovered and named in 1858 in honor of Queen Victoria of England. Parasites who buried the Church of St. George and others in Lalibela, Ethiopia, and invented that they had been carved into stone. In soft volcanic rock. Who set up the Disneyland in Pompeii, Petra, Stonehenge and Egypt to sell tourists the non-existent remote past. Who invented Hellenism, ancient Greece, and ancient Rome. Who destroyed the earth and accused us of being responsible for the false global warming. Those who want to block the sun's ultraviolet rays, so that we die faster. Those who committed the most atrocious crimes against humanity. Those who gain pleasure and high interest value to humanity's torment. Our civilization destroyed and our history erased to be exchanged for fantasies and 1,300 years that never existed. Our ancestors were attacked with biological weapons, and have developed bacteriophages as a defense to protect the breed. They lived in Hyperborea and were immortal, but they were invaded. Before disappearing, they created an army to protect nature and humans. They have left us bacteriophages, self-taught machines that have the strange appearance of little soldiers and are in constant training to perfect fighting methods. Bio-friendly robots, perfectly taught for combat. Present to billions in wells, springs and raw water. Raw, cold, holy water. Water that can cure serious illness, infections, inflammation. Those who destroyed our ecosystems to mine our riches. That turned mountains of waste into volcanoes. Who buried the rivers, valleys and ancient cities in Africa with sand and named it Sahara. That swept the cities of Greenland, Siberia, the Far East, and Alaska from the map and destroyed the civilization of Great Tartaria. That annihilated millions in Africa with bombs, creating a crater called Victoria, non-existent in ancient maps. Crater turned into a lake, discovered and named in 1858 in honor of Queen Victoria of England. Parasites who buried the Church of St. George and others in Lalibela, Ethiopia, and invented that they had been carved into stone. In soft volcanic rock. Who set up the Disneyland in Pompeii, Petra, Stonehenge and Egypt to sell tourists the non-existent remote past. Who invented Hellenism, ancient Greece, and ancient Rome. Who destroyed the earth and accused us of being responsible for the false global warming. Those who want to block the sun's ultraviolet rays so that we die faster. An idea of the British. Read today in the newspapers. British people. Those who committed the most atrocious crimes against humanity. Those whose new defense minister has a live tarantula on his desk to intimidate. Their secret weapon is attacking the attention span. Our attention spans are falling is due to the sheer amount of information that is being presented to people everywhere simultaneously and instantaneously. We now have so much information available for us to consume, and so little time to consume it in. It has become very clear that the size of the allotted attention time in our collective brains cannot keep up with the amount of information competing for that attention. So any truth out there can be very easily dismissed without us even acknowledging it. Some people call it psychedelic warfare, obedience, fear, and religion. Slaves are conditioned to lose their view of reality and they will go to great lengths and even kill people in reality and abandon their nature because they have been placed in a fantasy world controlled by the higher power and they have lost their common sense entirely. They grow attached to it and simply take orders without any awareness inside them. The people that live off this power are institutions, large corporations, governments, schools, religious institutions, and even non-profit organizations. Every institution will reach a point in its existence where its primary function becomes self-preservation and perpetuation, instead of serving human need. At this point it becomes a corrupt system. Governments cease to serve people and instead seek to extend their power over them. corporations prioritize increasing shareholder value over producing quality products or otherwise serving the public good. Schools view students as a means and not an end. Religious organizations equate membership with salvation and actively oppose other teachings and even independent practice. And nonprofits and charities spend more budget on fundraising activity than on their original focus. Inevitably, all large institutions eventually become corrupted. They become too big for humanity. To maintain this control, history had to play in their favor. Lincoln is a fraud. His fellow abolitionist John Brown is a fraud. Nikola Tesla, Einstein, Newton, Maxwell, Faraday, Planck, Marie Curie, Ada Lovelace, Charles Darwin, Charles Babbage, Baron Rutherford, Feynman, Niels Bohr, Santos Dumont, Stalin, Schrödinger, Schumann, Chamberlain, Fermi, Freud. They all are a fraud. Fraudsters are not just in the encyclopedia entries. They are gatekeepers, they are disseminating fake photos, they are copying other people's work, they are making videos to distract and to hunt for sponsors, they are recycling texts full of blunders written by government agents. Today's civilization is a fraud, filled with ignorant people, and raised on the ashes of a past civilization with high culture and cutting-edge technology. Stay tuned for more on Planet Terra.